Hey y'all, it's me, Adrienne, and it's time for another episode. The end of the semester is coming fast, and it's so close I can almost taste it. So without further ado, welcome back, fellow detectives, to Inquiring Minds, the podcast where I document the thrilling and occasionally baffling journey through my inquiry in math and science class. This episode is titled Handwriting, Hunches, and Horrible Math, a Detective Semester. Because let's be real, it's been a wild ride. In the latest modules, we dabbled in the art of classifying evidence. Think fingerprints and DNA, the easy stuff, versus blood types and tire tracks, the not so easy stuff. We also put our sleuthing skills to the test with some deductive reasoning to crack a fictional crime, learned how to spot credible sources because, the internet, and got our hands dirty with handwriting analysis to find the most likely suspect. Oh, and let's not forget the interactive games on distracted driving. Because nothing says I'm a responsible adult like realizing you're terrible at multitasking while behind the wheel. So buckle up, it's going to be an enlightening and occasionally cringeworthy ride. I had a couple of difficulties during these modules. My first issue came when trying to classify evidence as individual or class evidence. Classifying some evidence, such as fingerprints, DNA, or blood type, seemed like common sense. I thought the assignment was going to be simple, but even after 3 separate attempts, I still classified several types of evidence incorrectly. Some of the evidence types that I had trouble classifying were tire tracks, hair, soil, and tool marks. It was an eye-opening assignment, but it definitely was not as easy as I initially thought it would be. The next difficulty I had was regarding the math associated with our probative value of evidence assignment. So to really discuss my mistake, let me explain the activity to you a little bit. We were instructed to go out and observe people. We needed to observe at least 30 people. I chose to do my observing at one of the conference centers on my college's campus. We were to keep track of how many people were wearing 1, black t-shirts, 2, jeans, 3, white athletic shoes, and 4, all 3 of the items together. Then we were to find percentages of people wearing each of the categories. My issue came when I was doing the math. Instead of using my observation group of 30 people to find the percentages, I used my college's entire student population, which of course resulted in all of my percentages being wrong. Well, I see my mistake now, and we learn from our mistakes too, right? The assignment that had us use deductive reasoning to solve a crime was a pretty fun one to me. We were told of a crime, which in this case was a person being found dead, most likely murdered. We were then given clues and evidence that had been found. There was a list of likely suspects, and we were given little pieces of information from their statements. We then used the information we were given to narrow down the suspect pool and decide who we thought, based on all the evidence, was the killer. Some of the information we based it on was if the suspect had a corroborated alibi, if the suspect is known to wear red, if the suspect wears cologne or perfume, if the suspect's shoe size matched the footprints found at the crime scene, those kinds of things. I know it was a simplified example of the true process, but I found it very interesting and enjoyable. The handwriting analysis assignment was an interesting one to me as well. We were given a handwriting sample in the form of a ransom note, and we were given samples from 5 suspects. We were to study the ransom note, being sure to mark different aspects of it, such as letter and word spacing, which we were to measure, letter height, any spots where it looked like the pen had been lifted, any unusual letter formations, and any flourishes or embellishments in the writing. Then, using the findings from the ransom note, we were to study each suspect sample and attempt to determine which suspect was most likely the writer. I did make another mistake on this assignment as well. I forgot to mark the suspect samples. Yet another lesson learned, and it seemed to be a common theme during these recent modules. My attention to details. Well, you live, you learn, right? Right? Well, that's how I'm choosing to look at it anyways. In this day and age, with the internet and all of the information easily accessible from every angle, it is important for everyone to know how to recognize credible information sources. We learned about the CRAP system of evaluating sources. Well, it's not technically CRAP, it's CRAP, but you know what I mean. The C is for currency. Is the source from an appropriate time? When was it originally published? Is it regularly updated? When was it last revised? R is for reliability. Can you depend on the information? Can the information be verified by other sources? Is spelling and grammar correct? A is for authority. Can you trust the information source? Does the author openly list their credentials? Who is the publisher? Is the publisher credible? And P is for perspective or point of view. What is the author's motivation? Is the author trying to persuade you, sell you something, or simply inform you? Does the author seem objective or biased? I feel like being able to recognize credible sources of information will only become more important as technology further advances. The final activity was probably my favorite of the modules. We were to visit 2 of 3 given sites, which led us to 2 interactive activities and 1 game that all had to do with distracted driving. We were told to have at least one other person play the games as well and compare our results. My husband and I played them first, and the results were very eye-opening. I think what was even better, though, was when I had my 3 sons, who are 19, 15, and 10, play them too. They were all shocked at how much even small distractions, such as conversation, can affect your ability to pay attention to details. For anyone who may want to try out the activities or games, I will include the links to each one in the caption. Okay, so now before we jump into the true crime and current events portion of the episode, I thought a short history of handwriting analysis would be nice, especially for those of you, like me, who have completely forgotten all of our handwriting history. Handwriting analysis, or graphology, started as an artful mix of Sherlock Holmes and fortune-telling. The ancient Chinese and Romans dabbled in the notion that a person's writing could reveal their true character, while the 17th century European thinkers turned it into parlor tricks with flair. Fast forward to the 19th century, when French clerics like Abbé Michon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, tried to give it credibility, claiming that loops and swirls could diagnose everything from honesty to jealousy. By the 20th century, it was a full-blown pseudoscience, perfect for party tricks and murder mysteries. Today, real forensic handwriting analysis helps verify documents in courtrooms, while its cousin, personality graphology, still raises skeptical eyebrows. It remains somewhere between legitimate science and a whimsical nod to show me your T's and I'll show you who you are. The BTK killer, now known to be Dennis Rader, case is one of the most infamous serial killer investigations in the United States. It spanned 3 decades before the perpetrator was apprehended. The case began in January 1974 when 4 members of the Otero family, Joseph and Julie Otero, along with 2 of their children, were found strangled to death in their home in Wichita, Kansas. This marked the first killings by the BTK killer. The killer named himself BTK for his method of operation, which consisted of binding, torturing, and killing his victims. He would choose his victims based off of opportunity and personal obsession, and he would then stalk them before striking. He went on to claim more lives over the next several years, including Catherine Bright in 1974, Shirley Vian in 1977, Nancy Fox in 1977, and Dolores Davis in 1991, who was his final known murder, after which the murder ceased, and with no leads, the BTK case went cold. The BTK case would remain cold until 2004, when a paper called the Wichita Eagle published pieces speculating that the BTK killer was possibly dead or had been incarcerated for other crimes. This must have been a blow to Rader's ego, because instead of just allowing the case and his crimes to fade out of the spotlight, Rader began sending letters to local newspapers, television stations, and radio stations. He wanted to make sure that everyone knew that he, the BTK killer, was still alive and well and a free man. He would taunt law enforcement by sending them puzzles, pictures, and even word searches. He described his crimes in detail and would mock investigators about their inability to capture him. Despite the clues that he provided law enforcement, they struggled to identify him. His ability to remain anonymous became a key aspect of the case's infamy, but his letter-writing campaign was the beginning of his downfall. After being assured by law enforcement via a newspaper ad that he could safely and anonymously communicate with them via floppy disk, Rader did, in fact, send a package containing a floppy disk with only one file on it to law enforcement. I guess Rader had not kept up with the technological advancements of the day, because upon receiving the floppy disk, law enforcement was able to test it. One of these tests was able to determine that the last file had been saved by a user named Dennis. The metadata of the disk led law enforcement directly to Christ Lutheran Church and then to Dennis Rader, who was the congregation's president. Once Rader was in custody, they were able to forensically connect him to the series of handwritten letters that had been sent by the BTK killer. So although Dennis Rader was initially found because of a floppy disk, what helped solidify the case was Rader's own handwriting. So, what's going on with handwriting analysis these days? And what does the future hold? Handwriting analysis isn't just for old school detectives with magnifying glasses anymore. It's gotten a serious glow up. Thanks to digital tools and cutting edge software, what used to be a guessing game is now a high-tech science fair. Imagine algorithms and data processors swooping in to analyze your handwriting faster and more accurately than a teacher grading pop quizzes. For forensic teams, that means catching frauds and verifying suspects without relying on your uncle who swears his handwriting just looks suspicious. Enter AI and machine learning, the nerdy sidekicks of the handwriting world. These tools can sift through thousands of handwriting samples, find patterns, and even make predictions with uncanny accuracy. Think of it as having a team of handwriting-obsessed robots that never take a coffee break. Plus, with the rise of digital everything, we're seeing tools that can analyze handwriting from digital pads and screens. Goodbye paper smudges, hello seamless fraud detection. But here is where it gets even crazier. Predictive analytics. We're talking algorithms that could one day predict your moods, behaviors, and whether you're stressed out, all from just the way you scrawl your grocery list. Creepy? Maybe. Fascinating? Absolutely. Of course, with great power comes great ethical headaches. AI-driven handwriting analysis raises some serious questions about privacy and potential biases. Nobody wants their handwriting snitching them out to their boss about stress levels. But with challenges come cool opportunities, like better mental health assessments, more personalized learning plans, and rock-solid digital security. In short, handwriting analysis is going places we never saw coming, and it is bringing a mix of excitement and eyebrow-raising moments along for the ride. As long as we keep the ethical side in check, this tech upgrade will be writing its own chapter in the book of cool innovations. And that wraps up another episode of Inquiring Minds, where we've learned that sometimes your handwriting can be your biggest clue, but also your biggest oops moment. So if you're planning to commit a crime, maybe consider typing out your ransom notes from now on. Or better yet, just avoid crime altogether. Let's leave the mysteries to the pros, or at least to those of us who remember to mark the suspect samples. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, we've all got something to learn, whether it's how to classify evidence, dodge distracted driving, or how not to mess up math with your college's entire student population. Don't worry, I've learned that last one the hard way. Catch us next time for more brain teasers, fascinating facts, and who knows, maybe another handwriting fail. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and as always, keep those inquiring minds sharp. Until then, I'll be over here proofreading my notes for typos. Bye, y'all.